kick it off with just this quick intro video. I think that does a pretty good job of kind of helping kicking things off here. So, but then I'll continue. So that's essentially what Boon is from a long and short of it. So what I started out in was recruiting. That's what my background is. I'm started with sales and then eventually got into recruiting. And with recruiting, I found that there was a lot of issues in the recruiting market and from multiple perspectives. So from a recruiter's perspective, you're looking at the fact that you're doing two roles at the same time is one of the biggest issues. So you're doing business development, you're trying to reach out to new companies and get service agreements so that you can help with putting people at their companies. But then you also have to turn and pivot and find a bunch of candidates to place at those positions. So, both roles could be the job in themselves, but especially if you're working at a boutique firm, it can be really tricky to do that. So that's probably one of the biggest issues I experience from my own perspective as a recruiter, but from the business perspective, what they're doing is they're posting an opportunity and then it's not that they're finding a hard time getting resumes, they're getting qualified resumes. The time that it takes to do that, if you look at time is money, that's money being spent on the resources and when they likely have to pay to post a job, and then they're getting, they post a job on Indeed and they're getting 2,000 resumes. They might have 3 interviews out of that. So that takes a lot of time of sifting from the business perspective. There's a few others I could easily get into. It looks like that's not showing up, but let's see if we can get it to. That's a bummer. So from the candidate's perspective, they're getting spammed from the recruiters that are trying to reach out to them to get placed at these opportunities. And this is specifically within the tech realm where there's a high demand for these opportunities. You have developers that are basically being hounded day in and day out by recruiters that want to place them at these positions. And the reason they're doing that is because as a recruiter in especially on the West Coast, for placing a front-end developer, I can get paid $30,000 per hire, 20 to 30 grand, depending on, for a single hire, for finding this person with that job. So that's why, if you think about it, if someone has a good skill set, they're going to be basically literally just hounded day in and day out. It doesn't matter if they're looking or not. I mean, they could take their resume and try to delete themselves from the internet altogether, there's still going to be people that are going to be able to get that information and reach out to them. So that's one of the biggest issues. So there was a lot of frustration. Also, another thing I found from the candidate's perspective is that companies want candidates to be better at recruiting, better at interviewing, but there's no way to let the candidate know, or it's very difficult to let the candidate know when they have a bad resume, when they have a bad interview. And so what happens is without that knowledge, there's a very little learning curve, because if you don't know where you messed up, how are you going to improve? And they may sometimes relay that to the recruiter, but the more hands information passes through, the less likely it's to get to the original, the destination, and the more likely it's going to be skewed if anyone's played telephone before. So that's some of the biggest issues I've found. So all in all, my opinion, and if you Google just the term recruiting's broken, you'll have no difficulty finding any issues there. So with it being such a massive industry, like I said, you're looking at $457 billion annually in the recruiting world. So that's a 10% growth rate in that market. So it's a massive industry. There's ridiculous amounts of money floating around. Like I said, the fact that people get paid $30,000 to get somebody else hired is mind-blowing to me. I don't know if that's mind-blowing to anyone else, but for me, it's ridiculous. Another thing is that one of the biggest things that people are trying to do is harness their social media and figure a way to benefit and how that can affect recruiting, but nobody's been able to tap into that very effectively yet. And so that's where Boon comes into play. So essentially what Boon does is it allows a company to post an opportunity for free. Then anyone on Boon can find that opportunity and share that opportunity with someone in their network. The person can receive it, look at the opportunity, and if they feel they're a good fit, hit accept, and it will automatically take their information and send it to the company. If the company feels that that's a good fit, they can hit accept. They're instantly set up with an interview. And then as that interview progresses, if the person gets hired, Boon ensures that the person that made the initial referral gets paid $5,000. You don't have to track anyone. You can literally look at an opportunity, hit send. If the person likes it, they can hit accept. The company likes it, they hit accept. 2 weeks later, the person gets hired, you get paid $5,000. You don't have to hound anyone or anything like that. And what's even better is Boon actually has the ability now to search through people's networks. So what you can actually do is upload all your contacts. Because right now, let's say you have, as a recruiter, let's say 30,000 contacts, but even yourselves, 5,000 contacts. There's no way you know every single one off the top of your head. And so if I come up to you and say, hey, do you know somebody that does this well? You may, but you won't have the ability to access that data off the top of your head. So you're stuck thinking, okay, do I know somebody? And it's the amount of effort that would take and the return on that investment for you that you're willing to put into it. Likely, even if I said I could pay you $5,000, the chance of that actually panning out in reality is very low, so you're not going to put a ton of effort into searching through your entire contacts list. But what Boon does is actually searches through your entire contacts and compares the information of your contacts with the requirements of the opportunity and tells you who would be the best fit for you. So you don't even have to think when you're looking at the opportunity. So that's essentially what Boon does in terms of streamlining. I can show you what it looks like. So if you go, we have this issue sometimes with the sizing, but basically if you go to this site and you go to an opportunity, what you can do is view the opportunity, right? And this is what an opportunity will look like. It has a rundown of all of the information you might want to see in terms of what the perks are, the requirements, relocation, all that stuff. So if you know who to send for this opportunity, you can send it to them. But what's even better is what I mentioned is it'll search through all of your contacts and say, hey, Sandra Adams, you know her, you met her, a year ago. She's a front-end developer. She's a 98% match for this opportunity. So I might not have ever thought about Sandra, but this found and made the two connections and told me about it, and now I can send a referral to her. So in order to send a referral, all I have to do is share opportunity, select how I want to send it to her, text message, email, through social network. If she accepts it, so I send it, and then let's say this is that. So this is what it would look like if she received it. Like let's say she got an email, except for this it would say Dakota wants you to Boon. She accepts it. All she has to do is sign up, and then when she views the opportunity, all she would have to do is hit accept, and it automatically sends her resume and or her LinkedIn profile, whatever she's uploaded, automatically sends it to the company for them to review. Does that make sense? So the idea is to kind of like Uberize recruiting by allowing literally anyone to send any referral. I mean, we've all had a situation where somebody came up to you and said, hey, if you know, I just got laid off. If you know anyone that's looking for a carpenter or whatever it may be. But again, you're not going to take a ton of time to think, what other carpenter opportunities are there? What you can do on now is go on Boon, look for carpenter, and go to the opportunity and then just send it to the person. So you can send them 4 or 5 opportunities. If they like it, they accept it. Boon does all the tracking and you can get paid $5,000. Does that make sense at all? So that's essentially kind of what we put together. We were featured in Fortune. We've basically launched our beta in July and have been building a user base since then. We have right now about 5,000 active users, and we're about to finish up our convertible note, basically is what we're looking at before we head into our full C round. And that's kind of where Boon's at and what we're doing to try to help improve the recruiting process. So I kind of opened that up to Q&A because I could go into this for days all by myself. Yeah.
So if I get that referral and I pass it on to somebody, if they accept it, then I get paid. But if they pass it on to somebody, they get paid, right?
Right.
Or is there a residual back to the original?
So we're working on what we're calling like a referral chain. Yeah, exactly. So we're working on a referral chain. We want it to be, we need more data before we can actually put one that's effective. So the actual technology is not difficult, but we want to make it so, I mean, you can't have a referral chain that goes on forever because then it just, the piece of the pie gets cut up too much. So we're waiting until there's more data from more shares to determine like what the actual, like, let's say if the average referral chain is, 5, we would want to make sure that we're, that it is appropriate for each of those, it's beneficial for each 5 people. But if the average referral chain is 12, then we need to slice that up a little bit better and figure out when we're going to cut that off. So we're really just wanting more data before we actually implement that feature and let the data decide what that looks like first. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I've actually got a comment and a question. The comment is, you said that if somebody sends the opportunity to somebody else, they've got to sign up before they see it. Mm-hmm. One of the issues these days is everybody's signed up for too many things already. Unless you can show them an abstract to interest them in signing up, chances are you've missed them. So I would flip that. I would let them see the essence of the opportunity first and click a button to sign up if it looks like they're going to respond to it.
Yeah, so let's see if we want to show them a bit. So this is actually what it looks like when they land on the opportunity. It gives them an overview of the opportunity, not all the details though, because then there's no reason to actually sign up. But it does provide them with a general overview of the opportunity in terms of like the title, the urgency of the position, the description if the company wants to make it available, and then is some of the the breakdowns in terms of the role and whatnot. We also have added information about the person that sent the referral so that there's added credibility. So Boon actually also has what's called a Boon score, which is really similar to like an eBay score. So what that does is, like I said, there's a lot of spam. So Boon has several things to stop that from happening. Number one, there's a filter for everybody's, basically your referral inbox. You can say, I only want to see referrals that match this criteria. So you're not getting truck driver referrals when you're a front-end developer, and you're not getting, front-end developer things when you're a truck driver. You can automatically have those blocked. But what's following that is the Boon score, which means that's calculated on an algorithm based on how many referrals you send, how many are accepted by the person, how many are accepted by the company, how far they go in their hiring process, and how many hires are made. So what that encourages you is if you're sending out a ton of referrals that aren't getting accepted at all, you're going to have a very bad referral score. So if I have let's say our contacts, we just exchanged business cards, we're not super strong contacts, and I send you a referral, if you're like, this dude has a 52%, no, I'm not even going to look at this, I don't have time. So it's going to hurt me. So it becomes a part of my brand, my equity as an individual, online, whatever it is, to have a strong Boon score. So it actually hurts those that are not what I call like spam artists, because that was an issue as a recruiter. If you call some of these tech guys, just saying you're a recruiter, they'll hang up on you. They'll cuss you out, whatever it is. But with Boon, you can say, look, I got a 99% referral score. I know what I'm doing. I take pride in what I'm doing, and I'm not here to wreck your day. So it can, and then you can actually give people a reason to reach out to you. So if you're looking for an opportunity, connecting with someone that has a 99% referral score means they know their stuff. They're going to, use your time wisely. Does that make sense?
I withdraw my comment, you've got it covered.
Awesome.
The question is, I assume your algorithm for whether an opportunity is a match is fairly sophisticated, and it's only going to be as good as the information available on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Especially going through my contacts. Is Boon expecting me to add additional information to my contacts so that it can do its job?
Yep, so you have a contact manager within Boon that allows you to import your own personal contacts from LinkedIn, from your Google contacts, as well as any custom CSV or Excel sheet that you want. What's even better is you can actually upload full documents and it will parse that data, read the document, and create fields and put it in the appropriate field. So if I have your contact information, it'll actually merge your LinkedIn and Google contact. And then if I have your resume, I can upload it and it will take that information, including like your work history, the jobs you were working at, all that stuff, the skills, and put it into your profile and help me make better matches. But that's only for me. No one else on the site can access that information. But what's better is then if I invite you to Boon and join Boon, as you upload your information and continue to update your profile, now my data is continually updated and I don't have to worry about having expired data, because as you update your profile, you can link it to your contact that you created from, I created of you, and now I can continue to get my updated contact information. So I'm always getting the most relevant referral information. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
On the business end of things, you said they're posting each of these job positions for free. Is there a fee that's associated with every hire that they have, or how are you guys making your money on that end?
Yeah, the monetization right now, there's a down the line it's really more about data, and I can get into that in a second. But so we take 10%. So actually, when you get your referral bonus, it's actually $4,500. We take $500 of each hire. But like I said, I mean that's a great way to monetize. I mean, even if let's say we have 100,000 users, we have 20% that are active, and only 10,000 are making hires per month. That's still $5 million in revenue a month. So there's several other additional lanes in terms of, like, if you think about background checks and whatnot that can be used for affiliate and upsales down the hiring chain. But the biggest thing for me is the data. So like I mentioned, for when you're interviewing and you don't know why you didn't get the job, that's really stressful for a lot of people. And it is also stressful for the company because they're not getting any improvement over time. They're seeing the same issues. So what Boon does is when a company declines, and even when a person declines, they can provide an answer as to why, which affects their Boon score. It gives them a better Boon score for being more active in the network. But they can explain why. And so down the line, as you can, that data can be sold as a premium package. So if you have a premium account, you can get more feedback. Also, for a company's perspective, if you have a 6-round hiring process, you're going to see at some point people are dropping out. So what Boon can say is, look, you're losing your candidates at round 3. You need to improve, shorten your hiring process, and that data right there can be incredibly valuable for a company, because that means you can get better talent, you can improve the quality of your workforce, you can have a better company, and so that can be sold as an upsell package as well for the monetization. Yeah.
Couple questions. Let me try one first and then come back later. In terms of the companies, you've got what appears to be a fixed $5,000 fee out there, but I've got to imagine that you've thought more about the stratification of the kinds of jobs you're posting, whether it's a CEO job that might have an annual salary of $1 million, or whether somebody's looking for a local Java programmer here in Anchorage for a part-time job for the next 2 months that might be only worth a contract of $5,000 for the total employment contract.
Yeah.
What's your thought about the stratification of the kinds of jobs that you want to get, and the depth and breadth of the kind of people you want to interacting on this, both from the company recruiting side and the individual for job side? What's your kind of big picture view of that?
Yeah, that's like one of the things I'm most excited about. So we want a free-floating market system eventually, and very soon. So what that allows us to do is, when a company posts an opportunity, we say the average referral amount for this opportunity is $6,000. Let's say it's an iOS developer. It's $6,000 in your area. So what would you like to pay? if they go, with 5,000, people aren't going to give that as much priority as the 6,000. So that's their choice, right? It's just like anything else. If you want to say you're going to pay less, you're not going to, you're not going to get the same amount of bids or whatever it is. So, but if you need this person like tomorrow, you can say I'll pay 7,000, and now you're going to pay an extra $1,000 over what's typical in your area. But this also can adjust for demand, just like with Uber, you can pay a higher fee when there's a peak. So now we can start doing that. But then again, if you want to go in the data, we can recommend when to start having your hiring processes and do that as well. So, but that also allows us, so when I went on my honeymoon, I ran into these yachters, and they are basically, they work on these, as crewmen on these yachts for these like Russian oligarchies and like just ridiculously expensive things. So what the issue is though, for the captains, when they come to shore, there's always crewmen leaving and coming and going, and they have a very narrow time, less than a week sometimes, to find replacement crewmen. So they're paying ridiculous fees for these relatively low skilled labor positions because of the short time. And what's kind of ironic is the crew themselves all are very tight-knit. It's a very tight-knit community. So they actually know of people onshore and they can make the connections, but there's really no benefit to them, so they're not going to do that. So when we told them about Boon, although we are targeting tech right now, I didn't know if they were messing with me at first, because they all of a sudden got very serious and huddled around me and wanted to know like very specific information, which I didn't think I thought this would be like a side conversation, like a quick one-off, and we ended up spending the rest of the night discussing it, and they've continued to follow with me every single month trying to get a hold of this thing. So, I mean, I think, like you're saying, it's applicable across a very broad base of hiring markets. What we want to focus on for a reason we're doing tech is because, one, that's where the demand is really high right now. Two, that's where my network is strongest. But if you're getting going, like if we go after every single opportunity, then we're not going to have if you're trying to, let's say, grow a certain crop or grow a farm, you got to start with one crop at a time and focus on that and build like rich soil. So we want to have, focus on rich opportunities, making sure we're providing rich opportunities for tech opportunities and build those, and have rich candidates, build those. Because if we go too thin, it's not going to be really relevant to anyone. So we have to be relevant to single markets at a time. And then eventually once Boon, grows to be larger, then we have a larger base for more markets to be able to go. But we can't, if we go in too many directions at the same time, we're going to be spreading ourselves too thin and we're not going to be effective about it. Does that make sense?
Very much so, thank you.
Any other questions?
How many users do you have signed up now?
So total, we actually have like 15,000 users, but we have, like I said, about 5,000 active users right now.
What does an active user mean to you?
That means they log on at least a bi-weekly basis and check out the site. That's something we've been working to improve with UI, email campaigns, and then we're working to build like a Chrome extension where when you're on Chrome, you open up a new tab, you can have notifications there, you can get desktop notifications. But yeah, currently about 5,000, which means about bi-weekly.
Do you have any companies who have paid out referral fees?
Yeah, so we have Worldwide Express has paid out a few referral fees. They're UPS's #1 reseller. They basically help UPS target small to medium-sized businesses for their shipping. So we've partnered with them, and they're using Boon as their pilot program. The issue with Boon right now is, while we're in beta, it's not a finished product. So we've been really selective about the partnerships we have had. We actually had GE reach out to us and wants, interested in using Boon for their global recruiting tool, but it's not ready for that right now. We have, as we release new features, there's always going to be a few bugs, and so I'm really cautious about basically getting into, you don't want to overpromise. I would much rather, when we work with every company, we tell them, we basically almost try to scare them away a little bit and let them know, like, look, this thing's going to be buggy, it's going to be janky, it's, and it's not that usually, but I'd rather have that precedent and set that expectation and then exceed that, rather than saying, hey, this is going to be your best thing in the world right now, and then it not perform that. But I do think obviously it has the potential to do that, because for the companies, like I said, with that referral filter, they're only seeing, let's say, the best candidates they want to have a match for, and they can spend all their time just talking to the best candidates. So it's really interesting for them. Plus, if you look at like the fee for like a single LinkedIn account for hiring or for a company, $800 a month. And that doesn't even count ability to post a job. If you want to post a job, you have to, I think it's a yearly commitment of $1,500. For Boon, it's free to have a business account. It's free to have a user account. It's free to post opportunities. Only time you pay is when you make a hire. And then you're still paying, again, $5,000 versus $30,000. That's huge savings. So in terms of like, our ability to help on like I said, for everyone's end, I think it helps pretty significantly. Any other questions so far? Go ahead.
What are you looking for? Do you need money? Do you need connections? What do you need?
Yeah, so right now, like I said, we're in the middle of our convertible note, which is essentially a convertible note. I don't know if I am not a big fancy words guy. So a convertible note, if you're looking at it, is essentially debt. It started out as you're basically buying like a loan that can convert into equity at a certain trigger point. So right now we have a $30,000 convertible note. We've raised 160 of that. And then, so we're looking for an extra 140 to close that note. Previously, before that, we'd already raised 100,000 from the CEO of Verify. His name's Matt Katz. I had connected with him as a recruiter, and he had expressed extreme distaste for recruiters very clearly to me. And I had remembered that conversation that we had. And so when I had the concept for Boon and had put together the MVP for it, I called him up and said I might have a solution that you wouldn't have to ever speak to one again. And so he brought me into his office and wrote a $100,000 check. So that was really nice. So the cool thing is, like, so we do have a strong team behind us. But yeah, that's what we're looking for right now is to help kind of clear out that note so that we can continue to move forward. The tricky thing about raising funds is when you putting all that time into raising funding, and you guys probably might be familiar with this, is it can be really tricky because you want to actually put your time towards building the company and making it stronger. Because when you get those, me getting an extra $50,000 in investment doesn't actually improve my company any. So I want to spend as little time raising funding as possible. So that's what we've been trying to do is do a good job of balancing fundraising with improving the company and making sure that we're working on the business development efforts and whatnot.
Are you an Alaska company, a Silicon Valley company? Where?
Yeah, so I'm based in Culver City, which is in Los Angeles. I grew up in Alaska, since I was 5. I left here when I was 25, so it's been about 5 years now. But yeah, I mean, I still consider my parents live in Eagle River, so I still consider Alaska my home. But we're based in LA and Culver City right now, so I wouldn't say definitely not Silicon Valley, but LA is where the office is based.
Are you likely to relocate back here once you see a little more success?
I mean, I wouldn't mind, but you wouldn't be able to have a headquarters. The deal is with the talent. I mean, unless we were able to really establish a strong remote team and continue to scale on a remote level, it would be difficult to find the level of development talent that we need to be able to continue, to be able to actually function in Anchorage. That would be the biggest hurdle I would see. If Anchorage had a really strong software development or engineering team, or base, some sort of community there, it would be a lot more appealing. I just, from personal experience, I haven't yet seen a super, especially not something that would rival like Los Angeles or San Francisco. I mean, those are, two of, some of the strongest like software engineering markets that there is, in terms of the talent and whatnot. So yeah, that would be the biggest hurdle.
Kerry, as I look at this, and I'm amazed by the recruiting side of this thing, but as somebody who has, a good LinkedIn group of contacts and Facebook contacts and stuff in iCloud, stuff in 8 different Google accounts, I have this complete morass of contact information about all my professional and personal contacts. So what I see what you built here, and maybe somebody's already done it, and you've probably certainly thought about it, but I would love to get on this thing, even probably pay to be on there, if you would aggregate all my contact stuff, keep it alive so it's always dynamically updated. So if I ever add somebody to one of my Google accounts, but they happen to also be in my iCloud account, because right now I deal with, I've got 6,000 contacts on my iPhone. There's a bunch of duplications, and I can't find the right person all the time, or their information is all scattered. And if you could give me a platform where I could log in one time to have one harmonized, cleaned up, unduplicated set of personal contacts, so that I could then search and say, today I need somebody that knows this to help me with the problem. I need their phone number. You give me that, that'd be amazing.
So I don't want to steer you away from Boon just yet, but look up a company called Full Contact.
Okay.
And that's exactly what they're doing right now. But the issue that I have with Full Contact and similar companies is that's only half of the puzzle. Pulling in all that information only gets you so far. We want to help not only aggregate that information for you, but then be able to leverage that data. Because, okay, so now you have a great pool of data. Awesome. Like if you have everyone's phone number and all their social accounts, what does that do for you? What Boon does is now Boon says, okay, now we have all this information. Here's an opportunity. I go to an opportunity. It can compare and cross-compare. Here's the requirements. You know, if this position requires the person to be in LA, cross-compares to the person's, you know, information that's provided on their profile that says that they're in LA and makes that connection and makes them a higher recommendation, you know, score. So that's where that works. But yeah, I definitely think, you know, aggregating is important. I think that these companies that are just aggregating the data, though, they don't provide a real value add. Because I mean, if you just say, like, I tried to get my parents on it. It's like, okay, it makes all your information synced up. Their question is, yeah, but okay, why? And it's like, for me, that's still really cool. You know what I mean? Just from the tech end, like being able to pull from different APIs and all that stuff. But for my mom, she doesn't care. But if I was like, but mom, here's what I'll do is it'll help you improve your book of business because now you can make stronger recommendations and build a stronger network and leverage your, then she can, you know, I might still have to dumb it down a little bit more than that, like simplify it, but still that's really interesting for her. So I think that's where the other side of the puzzle, but you're absolutely right. I think that's 100% correct.
Yeah, you got an amazing platform you're building here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have a way to help both the seeker and the employer link longer term objectives in terms of soft skills? I mean, you've got some way of selecting this person can make this software, do this job, and they're brilliant at it. But are they good with people? Do they get it too? Is there some avenue for what you might call personality typing or like a softer range view where your buyer, if you will, or your prospect can say, I'm a brilliant technician, but if I'm not part of the people team, I'm not interested.
Right. So
there's some way of getting that to longer benefit for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great point. So that, number one, that is another reason why we're focusing on tech is because it is less soft skill related. You can it's easier to determine a good developer on paper than it is a good salesperson. Like those are two, you know what I mean? Like those are salespeople. Almost it doesn't really matter what the resume is because you want them to just be a good talker, good personality, that kind of thing. But so that's another reason why we're going after tech, but that we still have that within our focus. And that's another reason why we want to make sure that you're slowly scaling out. So what we have right now is they can a person can list their interest. They can also list their let's see, does it have it here? It doesn't list it here. So they can also list on this person's profile. It doesn't list it, but they can also list their reasons that they would want to look for another opportunity, and list those as based on if it's either motivated primarily off of better salary, if they're based on the better location, shorter commute, they can list those things. Down the line, it would be, I think, building into and linking up with tools like Hangouts, Google Hangouts, other types of things that allow people to also interface and have, without investing an additional time, you can have record like a quick, almost like a YouTube clip, explaining either as a company what you're looking for as an individual, and have kind of like a pitch for each opportunity, explaining it from, let's say, the hiring manager, saying here's what we're looking for. But then you can also have people, when they submit their application, you can require them to have, let's say, like a pitch video for themselves. So especially if it's a sales role, you can say, this guy has to speak for 2 minutes and I have to be, hit these bullet points. My name's Dakota Younger, here's my background, and kind of sell myself. And so that you can have, rather than pulling people into interviews and, within a few minutes, usually for salespeople, you can tell within the first 30 seconds if the person's even going to be remotely a good fit or not. So, the guy's on the other end of the video that he sent you, and he's just kind of like shoving you like next, moving on, so you can save a lot of time that way. But yeah, that's something that we're thinking about, where we just want to make sure that we're tackling the problem appropriately. And one of the things that we want to do, how we attack problems, is looking at the data that we have, rather than making decisions that we think we know the answer to, looking at the data that we have and going and following that data. So that's, I think, where a lot of companies get in trouble, is they think they know what they're doing, but look at the data and see if, are people is the biggest hangups you're finding that people aren't being able to communicate the soft skills, or is it maybe something else that you could build a better feature for that encompasses the real solution there?
Yeah, it's almost like if you could provide a further service, because some folks they need money right away, so it's a match.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a few months or a year, they're thinking, this is a great company, but I really don't like where I am personally. It's almost like a personality typing instrument where you can help people guide their career as much as provide them with the next step.
Absolutely, and again, that goes back to the data as well, though. If a person's leaving a company and they can help relay that to Boon in terms of why they're even leaving, then the company can now, like I said, that visibility of where they're, things are going right with an interview process or why people are leaving, all that information is stuff that companies would kill for. And that's where I think the monetization for Boon, I actually just want to get people using the site, and when they start their own behavior, if you're looking at like on the face of a blank mountain and they're a skier and they're going through those carves, each bit of information that they make is something I can actually chop up, Boon can chop up and return back to them as insights, because we do things on a daily basis that we're not even aware of. That's why, think about the Fitbits, like you're paying all this money for something to monitor what you're already, like it's not like you're not there already, but you're just not keeping track of all of that. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Awesome. Well, if you guys, I could honestly do this for like hours, so I'll cut in if anyone wants to.
Well, Dakota, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
We always ask, what can we as an entrepreneurship community do for you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said, with the funding would probably be the biggest thing. If anyone knows anyone that might be interested, I'm more than happy to. We have a pitch deck and we have all that kind of stuff, so that'd be really helpful. But I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship, so although it sounds kind of cheesy, if there's for me, it really I like helping other people. So if there's anything I can do to help you guys, whether it's just sending your information along to some of the contacts that we have downtown in LA and with some of the VCs and whatnot, and getting you connected there, for me that is extremely rewarding. That's kind of what Boon's all about. So don't hesitate to let me know what I can do for you, because I think eventually it all kind of pays itself forward. That's kind of actually what the name Boon means is kind of like a lucky windfall. So if there's anything I can do to help you guys, that would